Hey guys, it's Maymay, and many of you will know that I am a Cuttlebug user. That is the embossing machine that I have. And recently I saw where Cuttlebug brought out this magnetic cutting mat, and I was very, very excited to try this out. And I really love it because it will save us on all the taping and things we normally do with our dies. So today I'm going to show you how to use this magnetic cutting mat, as well as we're going to make a card kind of from start to finish together. I'm going to show you my process. I think that'll be cool. So this may be a fairly long video, but a lot of times you guys want to see processes of how I do things. I thought we would do it. So here we go. The first thing is this magnetic cutting mat is really long. You see how long it is? If you have the standard cutting plates for your machine, although they tell you, and I've seen that this works best with the extended cutting mats, it does work with the shorter ones. I'll do it both ways and show you, because once I saw this guy, I went and purchased, I haven't even taken him out of the box yet, but I purchased the extending cutting plates for my Cuttlebug as well. So we're going to do it both ways today. I want to show you how it works. Let's plan a card. So the first thing I like to do is pick a stamp set, and this is the one I'm going to use today. I want to do a nautical card. Once I pick my stamp set, then I go, what papers do I want to use? These papers came from the cutest little 6x6 pad. It's actually called Lakeside. I picked it up at TJ Maxx forever ago for $2.99. I have no idea if it's still in print, but I thought Lakeside, this will probably work. And I started to look, and these little patterns were so super cute. So these are the colors I wanted to kind of put together. Now, I say the first thing I start with is a stamp set. I actually started by going to Pinterest and getting some inspiration. So something I saw on Pinterest for dies, where they were using the pennant dies and some circle dies to kind of make these really cool little cards that we're going to do today. So once I picked my colors, I went and picked my card base. I actually picked my bases last because I want to pick my colors first and make sure the base coordinates. So now that I have this, here's what I do. I'm going to move all this aside, and I have in my head what I want my card to look like. I'm going to lay my dies out like I want them. Now, I'm going to take that anchor that I showed you in that stamp set. Matter of fact, let me bring it over here real quick. So you can see on my block I have that anchor stamp there, so it's clear, it's hard to see, but I made sure it would fit inside of this die right here, and it's going to be really close to this center die. So I know I want this die to be done in white paper because I'm going to do my anchor on that white paper and then cut it out. Now behind that, I'm going to want a trim piece, but I also want to bring these pennants in. So let me show you what I do. I kind of just play. I'm going to grab these three out. By the way, if you're interested in these dies, the circles that I use are from Doris. These pennants that I use are Dynamics, and they're in my store, so you can pick those up in Maymay Made It. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and these will be on the forefront of the card, like the anchor will be to the front, but I'm not going to stress about sitting all this stuff on top of each other like it's actually going to lay, but you can do that. Instead, I'm just going to lay some things around and kind of get an idea of what I want. What I'm really trying to pay attention to here is where the bottom of my pennant is going to land, because if I plan to put this here, it'll be behind that circle and you won't see the pennant. So I'm going to move stuff around and see where it's going to land. So I kind of like the idea of this one being in this area, and I know I've cleared my circle. Then I have one more because I like to work in odd numbers, and I want to see if I can make it happen. And I do believe I can get it really, really close, and I will be able to move that circle up some if I want to. So I kind of want to lay my card out like this, okay? A couple of things I'm looking at. Do my pennants all show past my focal point? And can I trim this off at the top and still have everything even? And I can. So this is the layout I'm going to go with. So I can put these aside because I know which ones I need out of it. And now we can pick papers for each of them. So like I said, I'll leave that there for a second. Like I said, for the middle little circle there, I'm going to use white paper for this guy. For these guys, I'm going to use those papers I showed you and just kind of play around, but I need to pick something first. I don't really care what patterns of these guys lay on top of each other, but it does matter which one I use to be the trim for my white circle, because I don't want it to blend into those patterns. I still want it to pop. So I'm going to look at those papers that I chose and see which one I think will be the most popping. This guy I want to be the background of my card, so I'm going to pull him aside. I already know what he's going to be. So I've got these four left. I have two options here. If you put a plaid, it kind of will blend into the background, and you think that it wouldn't, but it kind of does. A plaid kind of just goes off the edge of the page and it doesn't create a perfect line. So I'm not going to use a plaid for that matte piece of that circle. So I've got two pieces here I want to work with. I can use the red or I can use the blue. At this point, I want to decide what color I'm going to stamp my anchor in. If I'm going to do my anchor in a color, I want to make sure it's not the same color so I can get some movement. So I think I'm going to stamp my anchor in red. So I think I'll use this blue for my trim around the anchor and put that one there. And then I'll put the red over here into the pennants. Okay, hope that made sense. I think it does, and if it doesn't, by the time the card is finished, you'll be able to see exactly what I was talking about. I'm going to do my easiest cuts first. I know that I want this to be the mat or the base of my card, so I know this needs to be 4 by 5 1/4. Now my question is, do I want the wood to run across or do I want it to run up and down? And I actually think I want it to run across because I want it to be the feel of a wall, like that anchor's hanging on a wall kind of. So I'm going to cut this where that design goes that way, and then I'm going to cut it to 5 1/4 so that it will fit on my card as the base. So now we have our base, or the part for the mat of our card. So we can move that out of the way. We're ready to go there. Now we just need some stamping paper. So here's the paper for my stamp. The only other thing I need to make sure of is that my die cut is going to fit there, and it is, so we're good there. And I'm ready to ink up and stamp my anchor. Now here's the thing. I like to get the definites out of the way first. For example, I know I want to do an A2 size card, so my base is cut and ready to go. I know I want to stamp this on white, so I got my white paper. I know I want to stamp it in red, so I have my red ink. I know, the things I know I want to go ahead and do. I'm using distress ink. This is not going to be a perfect image, okay? I'm using my block. I'm not using a stamp positioning tool, so I'm just using the block. So I'm going to let this be what it is. And if it's distressed, it just is. I'm okay with that. But I'm letting that ink go in as much as I can. And I kind of like the distressed look. Let me come up and show you. Because this is a solid image stamp, you really could go back and do that again if you wanted to. But distress ink is really going to beat up on your photopolymer because that's the property that it has. No big deal. Now I'm going to set this aside so we can die cut it when we get to the die cutting portion. All right, let's decide about these dudes so I can go ahead and get their paper prepped. I know this one is going to be this, so I just need a piece big enough for that. Then I think what I'm going to do is pick my favorite of these three to be the biggest one. And my favorite is this plaid right here. So this guy is going to be this guy. So I'm good with that. Okay. Then I think I'll do a solid image in the next big, or a solid pattern. Even though that's not solid, it gives you the feel of solid. And then I think I'll do another plaid in the smaller one, just because I don't want them to compete too awful much. So now we're ready to go cut everything up. So now it's time to use our magnetic cutting mat. On the back of the packaging, it gives you the formula for how you need to stack these guys together. And here's what you need to do. It says stack plates according to the stacking instructions below. The bottom is the bottom, okay? So the A plate, it says on bottom, and I have my A plate right there in my machine. Then it says you want to put the magnetic cutting plate. Now, I told you I was going to show you two ways of doing this, with the shorter plates and also with the longer plates. Now, you can see that this is end heavy because I don't have the extended plates in. I'm using the shorter ones first, okay? Then we need a B plate. So I'm going to put a B plate in next. And you would think this changes the magnet and it doesn't work, but you're going to be shocked how strong it is. Now, before we go any further, I want to tell you this, okay? Your magnetic cutting plate should be sandwiched between A and a B plate. That's going to protect the cutting plate. When I showed this on a Periscope, I had some people ask that question. I want to make sure I clarify that. You are not cutting into your cutting plate. Now, Cricut recommends that at this point, you lay your die in. Look how good it magnetizes. Did you see that just pop into place? Let me show you. See that? It recommends that you lay this piece down face up, put your cutting material on top, and then cut. Well, my issue is if I want to pick a specific part of my paper, I don't want to just lay this guy on there. I want to actually lay it on top of my material. So watch this. It still works. It's very strong, and it still magnetizes into place. And my paper is cut just exactly the size that I need it. So I got to make sure that's on there good. So it's there. Now I will go back and add my B plate, which is the rest of the sandwich, okay? And I'm trying not to move that because it is a perfect size paper, and then run this through. I like the magnet. I think it's plenty strong enough. It works really well. And this way, we don't have to have tape anymore. Okay, so I've run that through, and I've only run it through one time, and you saw me do it. So I'm just going to bring it back over here, and I want to show you how well it did. So I'm going to let that sit there, pick this guy up, and check it out. We got our nice pennant banner cut with the stitches. You probably can't see the little stitches in there. Maybe you can. Let me see if I can make it where you can see them. There they are. The little tiny stitches. They look great. Okay, so let's keep cutting. Actually, let's go to the extended plates and I'll show you the difference. Did you see how that went through no problem? It just doesn't do anything here, you know, because there's no extended plates there. So let me get the extended plates out and we'll check it out. Now I have my extended A plate. You can see how long that one is. I have the magnetic cutting mat next. I'll just slide that in there to sit that there for a second. Then I want to show you something. The B plates, I just ordered these. They're fresh out of the package. Look how pretty they are. They're not going to let that go when I finish, but you get 2 in the package, so you don't have to order this twice, okay? You get 2 in the package, so you get just what you need. So we're going to put one B plate down, and that will sandwich in our magnet, okay? So we basically created like this magnetic cutting surface. All right, so now what I'm going to do is put multiples in here. So I'm going to put that one in, and we decided to do it with the second largest die. So I'll bring that little guy over, and it just magnets right down. Then I'll bring this little guy over and magnet that into place. And then while we're here, we're going to cut out our anchor, because why not? We've got the space, right? So I'll just lay this little guy down, and I'm going to let that catch. And then I'm going to move it to where I want it, so I know I'm getting exactly the cut I want. Ooh, I'm shaky today. Okay, so I'm good with that. Then I'm going to lay my extended cutting B plate on top, just like so, and then run all of this through at one time. Just like that. I'm trying not to shoot it across the room. There we go. Now I'm going to move the Cuttlebug for a minute so we can open this up and look at it together. So, you heard the noise it made. Don't stress about the noise. That's just what they do. It's no big deal. Look how nice. There's one. Here's the other. And then our circle. Look how nice that cuts out. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, we know that the Cricut cuts. Now I want to show you this. And you cannot let this stress you out, okay? Because they're gonna do this. You can see that there is some marks on my cutting plate, or can you? Maybe you can. Let's put some paper behind it. There we go. So you can see there are some marks on my cutting plate now. You can't let that stress you out. You just have to know it does not change anything. They will still work just fine. So that's using the extended cutting plates. I got one more thing to die cut, and that's this guy. So I'm gonna cut it, and we'll start to put our card together. As I was finishing that last cut, I thought, you know what, I should show you just how magnetized this guy is. Let me show you. So straight to it. Of course, you won't cut it this way, okay? I'm just going to show you how it will stick. See that? I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm shaking it, and now I'm going to tap it, and it's still there, okay? Now I'm going to show you if I put this B plate above it, which is what we are supposed to do when we use it, okay? And then I lay this guy on it. You can see it is stuck. Turn it sideways and shake it and tap it, and it's still there. So I think that's a pretty good way to show you that it's pretty magnetized, and it's nice and meaty. I love the way it feels. Here's the back. Here's the front. There you go. I wanted to make sure I showed you that because I thought, you know, that would be a question I would have is how magnety is it? And that's a word. Okay, let's put a card together. We have cut everything, and we are ready to go now. This is a perfect opportunity for inking because I think these pieces would be beautiful inked and a little distressed. So let's do that. So using my little distress tool and old paper distress ink, I think this will be a good one for this one. I'm just going to run around and ink the edges of all of these pieces. This old paper is a little bit green, and I think it'll pull out some of the green in these other colors, which I think will be pretty. You might wonder why people ink images. The reason I use the ink on images, is especially when I'm stacking things on top of each other, is because it just helps to create some separation. Another reason is because a lot of times you're using paper that has a white core, and you see how obvious that white can be on the edge. When you ink it, it kind of knocks it back and takes some of the white off of an image where you may not want a lot of white showing. It also can help you to highlight a focal point. So if there's something that you really want to show off when you ink the edges, it will do that. You'll see that when I go to ink the anchor. See how doing the edges just kind of make the anchor really be the focal point? Love that. And I'm going to do the card base. Now, typically, if you ink one thing, you should ink all the things, but I'm really bad at remembering that. So sometimes I'll create a project and realize, oh, I didn't ink all of that. So I'm trying to remember that in this card. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Just keep going. Nobody but you is going to notice that. Now to the part we've all been waiting for, assembling this card. The first thing I'm going to do is just glue these two together. I know I want this to go flat down onto the little backer piece that we did for it. So use a little glue. Put that guy down there. Just like so. That's cute. It kind of gives the feel, the circle gives the feel of like a life preserver, right? It's not, but it gives you that feel. Now I know I want this to go flat as well, so I'm going to glue it straight down to my card base. So put this guy down with his glue on the back. Just like so. And then we need to try to remember how we put these back. Now here's a tip. If you spend all that time and you weren't sure if you're going to remember where they go, you can take a photo with your phone and just sit it to the side, and when you get ready, you remember exactly what you're doing. You can also lay it out again here. So if I want to put this guy here, and then I want this guy, and I think I had these switched, but I'm going to change it here. I'm going to put this one here. I'm going to bring this one down a little further. Bring that one in like so, and then I think this one is going to go right here. I think that will look really cool and very nautical. Now, I'm deciding if I want to put this right in the middle, and I don't think I do. I think that looks cool, but I like it to the side. So I'm going to glue everything down like I've got it, and then I'm going to center this guy in the card and just let it lay like it is. So let's start with the big guy here. So I'm going to cut it off first because I want to ink that edge. So I'm just going to look here behind and just make a little mark and cut that away. Now I can just cut and ink. If you need to use your paper trimmer to make sure you get that straight, go right ahead. This way, everything will be inked like it should be. And it's ready to glue down. So put some glue on the back and put this guy in place. Something like this. I'm going to slide it all the way to the top also. So I'm overlapping that matte piece. I just think that looks cool and I like it. Very pretty on that wood grain. Okay, now we're going to do this guy, and I may not need to cut him very much. I'm thinking about just about 1/4 inch. I'm just going to eyeball that one. Just take my scissors and slice. Then ink. And glue it into place. Then we just have our last one to put on, which is going to go a little shy of this one, about like that. So I'm going to glue this one down and show you another trick. I'm just going to go ahead and glue it. Just eyeballing where it needed to go. Use that glue as my height because I eyeballed that. Stick this guy down like so. Then I'm going to trim it off, and then I'm going to ink it. It'll be just fine because we inked the edge of the card already. So if you need to do it this way, you can also do it this way. So see how that's sticking there and it's not inked? I'll take my ink and just go back and do it. Won't hurt anything because, like I said, we inked the card too. Okay, now the fun part. I want to put this focal image on so bad, but it's got to have foam tape. So let me get some foam tape. So I'm going to use some foam squares. I love these foam squares. They're also available at maymaymadeit.com, by the way, in case you're wondering. The things I get the most questions on are these kind of things and my glue. All that is available on maymaymadeit.com, so go check that out. There'll be a link below. Then I'm going to, remember I said I was going to center this at the top and between the card. So centering from edge to edge. And look at there how cool that card is. I love it. Now it's not done. It's got to have a sentiment on the inside, right? So let's do that too. Now I want to show the inside what I did to the card. I cut a matte piece in the plaid, I cut a white piece, and then I did a bunch of stamping with some vintage photo distress ink using that stamp set. I didn't leave myself a whole lot of room for any writing. I can always just sign it and send it, or I can add some writing up here so I still have some space, but I love how this looks. Now, if you're interested in this stamp set, it will be available again, hopefully the next week in our store. It did sell out after we released it, but it is coming back, so hang on, we got it coming. All right, guys, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed me showing you that extended cutting mat. I think that magnetic mat is really cool, and to be honest, I think it's worth it. Oh, by the way, I have only seen it offered on HSN. That's the only place I've seen it. I'll try to find a link for it and put below if I can, but I think you'll enjoy it if you have it for your Cuttlebug. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.